Hoping to clear up allegations that the government of Guam is collecting millions of dollars more than it anticipated, Governor spokesperson Troy Torres says GovGuam may have had a $1.3 million surplus in revenues at the end of the second quarter, but he encourages lawmakers and residents not to be misled.
While there may be a $1.375 million quote-unquote surplus by the end of March 31, 2011, this government is tracking revenues, general fund revenues of $635 million for this fiscal year, but it appropriated, or it adopted revenues at $657 million. As of today, we're looking at a $22 million shortfall for this fiscal year.
Torres says there's a major cash crisis in the government, and that $22 million shortfall doesn't even include the unfunded liabilities for the current fiscal year. That's why the Calvo administration will be submitting a $30 million supplemental authorization that they contend needs to be approved by lawmakers by June 1st to help with the cash crunch.
The fiscal team has come forward with the Supplemental Appropriations Act to help to fix this year's shortfalls, because there are major shortfalls.
So how does the administration intend to fund this additional authorization request?
As I understand it, there are a host of accounting solutions to this, including calling in some debts from agencies.
The money would go to pay the $11 million in unfunded health insurance premiums as current authorization runs out in June. They would give money for the amended permanent injunction, overtime for Department of Corrections and police officers, as well as give appropriations for the hospital and DOE. While some have criticized the administration for not being forthcoming with the numbers, specifically Finance and Taxation Committee Chair Senator Ben Pangilinan, even accusing the administration of using money that should go to tax refunds to pay health insurance and other things, Torres says the validated information says otherwise.
The cash that's supposed to go for tax refunds is funding the operational shortfalls of the government of Guam and the checks that were floated and the interfund borrowings from the restricted cash accounts.
Torres and DOA Deputy Financial Manager Kathy Kikigi explained that when the Calvo administration took over in January, they were left with a financial mess. $14 million in floated checks that had to be paid, $8.5 million in interfund borrowing from restricted cash accounts, and $55 million worth of prior year bills that were paid with current year appropriations.
Instead of monies going to pay for the critical operations, we had to address the float amount first, which is around $14 million. So you're talking about cash from current year revenues that are going to pay down this float as opposed to paying for operations that are scheduled in the budget to be paid out for the month of January.
Torres adding the government's current financial situation is something that the governor and others have warned about for several years.
Then Senator Calvo and then Senator Tenorio, as well as Senator Frank Blas Jr., were completely opposed to this budget and to the previous budget for these reasons, and they said so, and they made no secret about it.
The administration is hopeful lawmakers will review the Supplemental Authorization Act immediately, as they are currently in session. Reporting for Guam's News Network, I'm Mindy Uggan.